Alright, so let's take some time to go over the appearance panel. So the appearance panel allows you to apply multiple fills, strokes, and effects to one single object. And we'll kind of look through this, but we'll see that it works kind of like layers and that stacking order is important. And so within this panel, we can also adjust the opacity or how much of the object we can see with each of those strokes and effects. So let's go ahead and give this a try. I'm going to zoom in here and we're going to modify this drop cap letter T using our appearance panel. So I'm going to go ahead and select the T, and then I'm going to find the appearance panel. It's this symbol right here. Looks kind of like a sun, but we can also find that through window and appearance. And I'll go ahead and pull this off of the dock so we can see this a little bit better. And so what we're looking at here is we can see that this shape right here is a compound path, okay, meaning it's just one path all the way around. It has no stroke associated with it, and it has a fill associated with it. And if I wanted to, I could click on the opacity and I could decrease this opacity so you could see less of that fill. I'll just bring it back to 100. As of right now, there's no stroke, so I'll go ahead and click on this stroke and let's go ahead and add one. And let's add a dark blue stroke, and I can, right within this panel, I can adjust the size of that stroke. If I click on the word stroke, I'll bring up the stroke panel. And so this makes it really interesting because now we can add multiple strokes and we can affect the alignment of the stroke. So I'll keep that one there, and I want to add another stroke to the same object. I'm going to come right down here, and this is where we add new strokes, new fills, and new effects. So I'll click on add new stroke, and it essentially makes a copy of that same stroke we have right now. So I'll click on that one and I'll change the color. In this case, I'll change it to an orange. And I'll click on the stroke for the stroke panel. And this time I'll change the alignment. Let's move this new stroke to the inside. You can see it right here. It's a live preview. And let's go ahead and increase the size a little bit. Okay, so something like 4 points. Click OK. Just know that these work kind of like layers. So if I click on this side of that stroke, I can actually start to move this in the stacking order. So you can see I just moved that stroke up to the top. If I wanted to, if I move this all the way down, we wouldn't be able to see it because the fill is covering it. I'll move that back up, so I'm holding down on the mouse, and I'll pull it up to the top. Actually, I'll pull this right below our blue stroke, so right about here. And I'll bring down the blue stroke to 2 points. And let's add one more stroke. So I'm going to hit the new stroke, and it made a copy of that. And let's go ahead and align this new stroke to the outside. And that worked. So I'll go ahead and bring down that weight a little bit, and that looks pretty cool. So now we have multiple strokes on one object. Okay, so I'll click the object again, and I'll go ahead and bring that blue stroke down to 1. I want more of a fine line through the middle of that. Make sure your object is selected as you're changing the appearance, because sometimes you can start changing everything in this appearance panel, and you might realize that you haven't had your object selected, and so you'll do a lot of work for nothing. So I'll go ahead and make sure that's still selected. And let's go ahead and add a new fill. So I'll click the add new fill, and by default it's putting it at the top. So I'll click and drag this down so it's below the strokes. And I'll go ahead and click on that, and it brings up my swatches. And if you don't have them already, try to find your pattern swatches, your basic graphics. I have those already loaded in here, so I'll just go ahead and toggle through a few of these and choose one that I like. Go ahead and choose that one. And I need to make sure that it is on top of the other fill, because if this were on the bottom, we wouldn't be able to see it. So now we have two fills. We have a pattern swatch fill and a orange fill. All right. Let's do one more thing. Let's add an effect. So I'll come down here. Right next to the fill is this letter F with X next to it, so FX. I'll click on that, and let's go ahead and find our drop shadow. So stylize and drop shadow. Let's go ahead and move from the darkness to a color. Let's choose a color. And the color, I want to match that blue background a little bit more, so I'll choose a dark blue. And I'm going to go ahead and move this into place. I need to have the preview selected. So I'm going to actually have 0 for the X offset, and I'll just have a slight bump down on the Y offset. I'll decrease the blur. Let's try 0.05. Click and unclick the preview. So that's maybe a little too much. Let's try 0.1. Try 0.3. All right, I like that one. And we'll click OK. All right, so that was pretty fun. We added a lot of different elements to that one shape, and we gave it a lot more life. Let's go ahead and get some more practice in here. Let's practice using our appearance panel on a word. So if I click on this word and look in my appearance panel, it understands that I'm using type and not a compound path. I actually need to switch this to be a compound path. Make sure that this is selected. I'll go up to type and create outlines. Okay, so now it's reading it as a group, but I actually need it to read as a compound path. So a compound path is saying make all of these objects read as one object. So I'll go to Object, Compound Path, and Make. All right, so now we can start working on this. Let's start by adding a different fill. So I'm going to click on this black fill, and I'm going to go to my swatch libraries. I'll go to gradients and down here to spectrums, and I'm going to go ahead and select one of these rainbow spectrums. I think I'll choose this one because it's a little easier to read some of the other fills on top of it. All right, let's go ahead and add another fill, and let's choose from our swatch libraries. Let's go to patterns, basic graphics, and dots. There's quite a few different dot patterns we can use. Let's use this one at the very end, the undulating fine dots. So it kind of goes from large to small dots, gives a little variation. All right, so now let's start on these strokes. So we can see from the template we have a blue stroke on the outside, a white down the center, and a red stroke on the inside. So I'll go ahead and add a new stroke, and let's go ahead and do the red stroke first on the inside. So we'll have to click on the stroke word and choose the align to the inside, and I will increase, I think I'll do about 3. And let's go ahead in the stroke panel, let's change what's called the miter limit. So at 4, you can see it's not able to connect these sharper ends of the path because we have a limit. Okay? And if we increase this limit, let's try 6. Okay, it starts to actually try to connect those. Go ahead and increase that to 8 and see how it does. All right, so it's connecting that, but we're getting some weird transitions here. So let's round off those corners, and that's a little bit easier to work with. Let's add another stroke. Let's move this stroke to the top of the stack, and we'll change the color to white, and let's realign this to the center, and we'll decrease it to 2 points, and let's add one more stroke. Okay, so this one's already at the top. Let's choose blue, and I'll click on the stroke for the stroke panel. Let's align this to the outside, and let's put it back on a miter join corner, and I'll go ahead and increase the size, and I'm just looking for it to kind of bleed together a little bit, so something like that. Might come back in here and increase the size of that white stroke a little bit more, and even increase the size of the red stroke. I'll keep it at 3. Okay, so the last thing I want to do is add an effect to this. So I want to change the shape. So this looks like it is our upper arc effect. So I'll go into the FX, and make sure when you do this that you choose the whole compound path. So right up here, effects and warp, and let's go to arc upper, and let's change it to that horizontal. Wow, I'm getting a weird bend. I'll move that up a little bit. All right, and that's about what I was going for, something like that, and I'll click OK. So let's move down here to the graphic styles. The reason we're going to look at graphic styles right now is because it relates directly to the appearances. Your graphic styles are basically your library of appearances. So let's kind of demonstrate what that means. I have these pre-made appearances on these square swatches. So I'm going to go ahead and click on this first one, and you can see that there's a bunch of appearance attributes associated with this. If I wanted to use this in the future for other projects and other objects, I would need to save it in my graphic styles library panel. So I'll go ahead and find the graphic styles. I can go to Window and Graphic Styles, and it usually accompanies your appearance panel. So I'll just put it kind of in the same tab. And so there's a couple of ways we can save this in here. With that new appearance object selected, I can hit the new graphic styles and it adds it. You can also click and drag objects into the graphic styles panel to add them. I'll go ahead and delete that one. And let's go ahead and add these other ones. So I'll add this like orange sand one, and let's add this neon green grid one. It looks like that one was already loaded. So we have a collection that we've made of graphic styles. Just like your swatches, you save them the same way. Make sure nothing's selected on your artboard. I would select one and then shift select the rest. And then I would go to either the options icon or the graphic styles library, and I would go to save graphic style library, and I can find somewhere on my computer or my cloud drive or flash drive to save that. Okay, let's go ahead and start applying these new graphic styles. Let's go ahead and choose this S. I will select that, and let's apply this graphic style we just made. Ooh, I'm going to apply it to that one, and that one, and that one. And let's see what this orange sand looks like. So I'll apply it to the background. And if you have a lot of effects associated with it, effects do take up memory space, so sometimes it takes a little while to load those. And I'll go ahead and let's try this neon green effect here. All right, so now that we've tried our own effects, let's go and see the library of different effects that we can have access to. Just go ahead and let's find the graphic style of textures, and I can go ahead and experiment. I'll select this background shape and I'll start scrolling through and trying some of these other ones. Some of these take some time because we're dealing with multiple effects, which takes up memory space. So go ahead and create your own composition here.